Welcome to another Innovation Forum podcast with me, Ian Welsh. I'm with Cornelia Gomez, Ethical and Sustainability Practice Advisor with AsiaInspection, and we're at the How Business Can Better Manage Human Rights Risks event in London. Welcome, Cornelia.
Hello.
Earlier on today, we were talking about risk mapping and is it good enough and how businesses can improve it. From your perspective, just in general terms then, what are the challenges for business in mapping supply chain human rights risks?
So first thing, it's important to remind that risk mapping is really such an important step today in securing the supply chain. So it should be indispensable before doing an audit. I'd say that the main challenges for our clients today is really the volume of suppliers and the complexity of the supply chain. Many of our clients have suppliers, intermediaries across different countries, across different product categories. So it's really finding the right criteria to assess the risk, defining the risks and the impact of each risk, and also where to draw the line in the supply chain. So obviously we all would love to go down to tier 4, but it's not very practical.
Where did the practical level lie then? Is it tier 1's obviously easier, tier 2? Is there what's the gradation of risk or the gradation of difficulty in getting down to analysing the risks?
So it would obviously depends on the industry, but if we take, for example, the garment industry, I think it's go beyond really, first of all, clarifying whether you're having a direct relationship to your supplier or not. This is because intermediaries, importers and agents should actually be considered as tier 1. So in this case, proper target would be to know 100% of the suppliers who are today producing your private label product, and really then try to understand what is the production process, and really try to go to tier 2 to understand where the material comes from, or if the production process is broken into smaller production process. Is it around the factory or is it in another country, for example?
AsiaInspection, among other services you provide, you are auditors. How's the role of auditing changing? And we've all heard about audit fatigue. So what's the sector really doing to solve this?
Indeed, we've seen a very interesting trend in the past years from our clients, is that they're really accepting and understanding this audit fatigue for the supplier and all the negative consequences that it can have. So what the first thing we're seeing is that there's an increasing collaboration with multi-stakeholder initiatives. And for example, we're working with CEDEX and also ICS in France, and it's a very positive change, because instead of just talking to one client, having a specific audit methodology, specific guideline and way of interpreting local law, ILO conventions, we can actually talk to a representative of all those brands. It's much more efficient and much more comprehensive for the supplier. I think there's really, of course, another important aspect is that, and this is very good news, is that because there's legislative and regulatory change, but also a change of heart, I think, within each organization, our clients are really accepting the need for the audit as an essential tool to secure the supply chain, which means higher volume of audits. And this can bring the challenge of delivering value to those clients, because at the same time, we do send qualified auditors, but we also need to have a proper relationship with the supplier, explain that we're coming, explain what will happen, and deliver a format that will be comprehensive for this client, but also for the supplier.
It's delivering a valuable product, after all. In general terms, what impresses you about companies and doing well on risk mapping? What do they do that you see as get good practice? And the flip side then, what do you see companies doing badly?
So first, I'd have to say in the past 2 days in all the conferences, I was really impressed with the amount of companies that are really tackling modern slavery issues. They're really not shining away from that. And I'd say that first and foremost, most of them understand that you don't deal with risk on your own, that there are service providers out there to help you with this technology. Supplier portfolio on Excel is just outdated. So using technology, data risk screening tools, data visualization tools, data analysis, it's really first an excellent step. Then we've also noticed that we've heard a lot about training, internal training. So I think it's really positive that the companies today understand that there's not only external stakeholders, so NGO, press, consumer, government, but also internal stakeholders, so their own team members, the procurement teams that absolutely need to get on board to make sure that the process really goes forward. And the last point is, I see that they're also tackling the country level realities. So it's important to know that you can't just limit a risk to a region. It's nonsensical. So we heard, for example, some companies doing country level assessments or impact assessments on a regional, local basis. That's very, very positive.
What about things that you think companies generally can improve on?
talking about risk mapping, I think that the risk mapping or the analysis of risk is still a little bit past-based. So really it's a bit still too much about healing instead of preventing, I'd say. So a report from an NGO or a press coverage from The Guardian will fall on Thai fishing, and boom, fishing in Thailand becomes a very high-risk area. What companies should actually do, or should try to do, is try to observe or try to analyze countries, sectors, or product families in a dynamic way. So, for example, looking at current initiatives that are on the ground that are actually changing the grammar of risk in those countries.
It seems that the sector is evolving, and the way companies are engaging with risk mapping and everything else is changing too, and it's a sector to keep an eye on. Cornelia, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks a lot.